Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. We're going to do a special broadcast about guns. And why? Well, David in Illinois had a request that we talk about guns. And it's certainly appropriate. Self-defense today, in the way the country and the world is spiraling down the drain. Self-protection is really important. So we're gonna talk about self-protection. We're gonna talk about guns. And David in Illinois is with us, and Kyle in Montana is with us. We're not going to be able to take calls today. It's a technical thing. It's very difficult to have multiple instructors on and take calls at the same time. There's a technical issue with that. So. And there's lots of background noise. We've done it in the past. It is, it's difficult. So we're not going to take calls today, but we can certainly take calls about this. We can do this another time with one instructor rather than three instructors. And, we'll see how that goes, at another day. And, I'd like to do that. I really would. So let me first, and I'd like to ask that when you are not speaking, Kyle and David, just if you can put your phone on mute, that would be great. So let's welcome David. David in Illinois, welcome.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I hope I didn't overstep. I sent you some links for some pliers that I go through and
yeah. No.
Availability.
No, you did not overstep at all, and I'm sure you'd like to talk about those things. And let's welcome Kyle in Montana. Welcome, Kyle.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. One of the things that USA Prepares does, I think, pretty well, I'm bragging about our instructors, is we see things. We take notice. We look up, we look down, we look all around, and we take notice of things that are happening, and we share them on the air. So that's what part of this broadcast is going to be about, things that we have seen and noticed and observed. And we're sharing. So here's something that I've noticed in Missouri. So we live in the Wild West, class. I'm not exaggerating. There's, the closest law to us is 20 miles away at the closest. Literally. That's the closest law enforcement office. That would be the sheriff's office. So there's not much here in terms of law enforcement. So we're on our own. Everyone that lives here knows that and behaves accordingly. And one of the things that we used to hear for the 15 plus years we've been here is the routine of gunshots. You'd hear them all the time. You'd hear them, not necessarily all night long, but, certainly during the day and the afternoons, lots of sighting in of rifles, target practice, that kind of thing. And you would hear rifle, pistol, shotgun, black powder, and you could tell the difference, okay, by the sound of the report, if you will. Not so much anymore. We are not hearing gunshots. And let's start with Kyle. Kyle, why do you think that there are fewer gunshots, fewer target practice shots going on? And then David, next. Kyle, what do you think the reason is?
I think that people are, they don't want to waste any ammo. They're kind of waiting on, they're waiting on the, for lack of a better term, the crap to hit the fan, and they don't want to be, sitting there high and dry.
Okay. David, your thoughts?
I agree. I know a decent firearm owner will try that ammo out, so you're going to hear them trying new ammo to know how well it functions in their weapons, but that's all they're doing with it. And they're sighting them in, making sure their ammo functions correctly in their firearms, and they're stocking it up.
Absolutely, total agreement with both of you. No disagreement whatsoever. And so what I did was I looked up the price of ammunition. Now let's just take 22 long rifles class, for example. 22 long rifles, that is the cartridge it's probably the most popular cartridge that's ever been produced. It's well over 100 years in age. And it's the cartridge that I learned with. I'm sure that your other two instructors have done the same thing. So when we were younger, that's the cartridge, 22 long rifle. I could buy them when I was, let's say a young teenager, very young teenager, for 50 cents a box. And there were 50 cartridges in the box. And I still have one of those boxes. It was Sears. Sears sold them, and they were labeled Sears. 50 cents for 50 rounds, 1 penny per shot. 3 or 4 years ago, I could buy them for $2.06 per box. So 4 times, just over 4 times the price. So that would put them at 4 cents a round, roughly. So from 1 cent to 4 cents. Today, I looked at the price of ammunition. 500 rounds in what was called a brick. 500 rounds, that's 10 boxes of 50. $200. 40 cents a round. Now I found some for 20 cents a round. And this is an enormous price increase. And the choices, you used to be able to get Federal in lots of different bullet weights, lots of different velocities, Winchester, Remington, CCI, Blazer, RWS. There are lots and lots of choices. Now there are very few choices. And if you go to one of these bulk ammo websites that says, buy in bulk, lots of luck. Lots of luck buying in bulk because they're pretty much out of stock on pretty much most cartridges. David, your thoughts. Have you done that?
Yes, I have bulk ammo here, a lot of it, but I went out yesterday, no bulk ammo in the stores, no ammo at all in the stores. But availability online, the places I get from, and they tell you right off the bat, availability is first come, first serve. You may not get it. And they're so backed on back orders, you can't even call up and ask questions if it's even going to be shipped or available. That's how busy they are. Even body armor. I tried to get body armor, and I can't talk to nobody. They're not answering calls. They're so busy.
Okay, I've seen a banner on a website, on a bulk ammunition website, in red letters, like, heads up, pay attention to this. And they're saying pretty much what you said. They're being polite. They're not saying, yo, don't call. What they are saying is, we're overwhelmed, we're back ordered, and the answer to your question is, it's going to take 3 days if we can ship it to you. Meaning 3 days to process your request. Yep. Kyle, what have you found? Is that in sync with what you found?
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, the other day, let's see, I think it was not this last weekend, but the weekend before, there was a big gun show here. And before the gun show, because normally prices are, higher in many cases on anything that is scarce at the gun show or collectible or that kind of stuff. Guys know what they have. These guys most of them are not very looped into the shortages and stuff. And so anyway, I called every single store in the valley that we live in within a 40-mile radius. And not one of them had any 9mm, 10mm, 38, 357, .223, 45 long Colt. 45 ACP. So none of them. But when I went to the gun show, I was absolutely overwhelmed because there was older guys there that obviously are not in the loop. And they were selling just bringing their ammunition to get rid of it. I could not fathom it. There was dealers standing in line with other dealers, to buy their ammunition at whatever they were selling it for. The different things, the 10 millimeter here in Northwest Montana has got a nickname. It's called Montana Bear Spray. So it's extremely popular handgun. And, so there was a friend of mine across the aisle there that was a dealer, and another dealer from on the east side of the state came over to his table and paid full retail for a Springfield XD 10 millimeter. And he said, I just want to have something to put in my case back in my shop. Just that's how bad it was. But there was screaming deals back there. There was CCI 500 bricks for $50, which, and you can't even get CCI hardly at all anymore. There was 30-06, Remington 30-06 ammo. One old boy was selling it. If you bought 3 boxes, he'd let you have it for $10 a box. I was just stunned. I was literally stunned. And so, needless to say, I loaded up. And
those prices, $10 for a box of 20 cartridges, 30-06, is like the good old days on a blowout sale.
Yep.
And okay, so here's what I found. Here's what I found this morning. 357 is a very common revolver cartridge. The police used to use them. So there's lots of 357 revolvers out there. Well, the price of one round, one shot, I found $1.32 per shot. That's crazy. It used to be 15 to 20 cents a shot, right? Now $1.32. So that tells us what? What is, David, what does that tell you, the price of ammunition? What does it tell you?
One, I think there's a large availability out there. It's just they're being overwhelmed. That's part of it. But the other thing, and there's all the gun owners that fought against us having firearms, they're now knowing, and they're trying to buy guns. So we have that market to deal with. But here's something that I want to comment on what Kyle just said. And firearm owners remember. They remember. And one of the biggest things I've seen lately are the furiousness over these people price gouging. You have the good dealers that are selling because they don't want to price gouge. They know they're just out there to supply their customers. But then you got the other one that's just going to buy it and jack it up to some crazy amount of money. They're out there for the buck, too.
Yeah. And it also seems to me, when we come back, Kyle's opinion on this, seems to me that people are panicking. Kyle's with us. David's with us, and we're talking about guns. And if you add up all the number of years that the three of us have been shooting, my guess is about 140 to 150 years. If you add up, how long we've been handling, shooting, practicing, etc., with rifle, pistol, shotgun, and revolvers. I'm looking at a picture on the internet, and a headline says, COVID-19 impact. Guess why people in USA are queuing up for buying guns. And it says that there's an unexpected fear of many people in the United States, which caused a sharp increase in the sale of guns and ammunition. Kyle, your thoughts?
I don't think it's an unexpected fear. I think we're being manipulated, Vince, like you can't like we can't even fathom. You know, they know exactly what all of this information. Remember the old boys that created the vaccine and the COVID thing. They're the same guys controlling the news media. You know, I'm not saying there's not the facts are there, but you know as well as I do that the way that you present a particular idea or opinion can manipulate people's perceptions, you know, and it does, and it has, and like Dave said, I think there guys are producing ammunition at the rate that they were doing, or maybe even 100% more than they were doing before, but you're seeing all this panic buying now because people are scared to death of, the potential of a Biden presidency or a total breakdown of society. The biggest thing is, to me, that I was thinking as I was watching all of these people buying ammunition and guns and stuff like that, you know, for the first time, I thought, you know, they're the same people that don't have any food at home at all. They're probably so underprepared. It's scary. So what are these crazy people, unprepared people, going to do if and when there's a major collapse in this country and they have no food, but all they've got is guns and ammunition? You know, I believe that's the worst. Those are the worst kind of people to have armed in reality.
There was a saying traveling through the gun shows when Barack Hussein Obama was CEO, and that was, he's a great gun salesman. People were so concerned about what he might do that he was like the number one gun salesman in the United States, maybe the world. And that seems to be nothing as compared to the thought of a Jumpin' Joe presidency. People have no clue what he might do. He doesn't have a clue what he might do. So I know it sounds funny, but it's true.
No, it's totally true. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
he is messed up.
I think
sorry.
Go ahead, David.
Did you see his mess up recently for the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance? I mean, I don't think he's there.
Yeah.
At the end where he says, "No, for real." You're like, what? What?
Well, you know, we were a little bit of humor here. We were having dinner 2 nights ago, and you know, the topic of Mr. Forgetful came up, and so you know, I say as head of the household, I'll look across the kitchen table and I'll say, okay, you know, would you please say grace? And I'll, you know, indicate that one of the boys or whoever's to say grace. And one of our boys said, okay, I pledge allegiance. and that was in honor of, that was in honor of one of those guys running for president.
Oh, goodness. It shouldn't be this funny, but
I know. All right, guys. Well, we'll be right back. David's with us. Kyle's with us, and we're talking about guns today. Very serious topic, and we're talking about the difficulty in obtaining ammunition. And you'll probably learn more how difficult it is to obtain the rifle, pistol, shotgun, or revolver as well. And you just heard on the bottom of the hour news that it's been floated, that the government spray, SPRAY, $1,000 every 2 weeks to each American. That's $500 a week. That is telling you that how great the desperation is. That's telling you that people who used to have jobs don't have jobs. That's telling you that the economy is broken. That's telling you that the supply chain is broken. That's telling you that people are pretending that they're working from home when they're not. Just try to get technical support. Just try to get someone to help you with something that you're trying to buy in a technical respect. It's very difficult. And what I've seen on a website called Gunbroker, GUNBROKER.com, is pretty high prices. So, for example, there's a Marlin lever action 22. And it's called the Model 39 Mountie, MOUNTIE. It's a magnificent specimen of art and rifle. A wonderful example. The starting bid for this 1978 rifle is $1,150. It has 6 days, 9 hours to go. That's a lot of money, because I know for a fact that I was able to buy that exact rifle for around $300 20 years ago. And that's the starting bid. Kyle, any comments about the prices? And then David.
Well, I'll tell you something really interesting, Vince. A friend of mine bought a Mountie at this last gun show for $425 that looked like it just came out of the box. Like I said, sometimes you can hit these gun shows and really do extremely well. And he's not going to sell it. I mean, it's going into his collection. But the other thing I saw was a little Browning lever action that I could have bought for $450. The only reason I didn't buy that is because I'm actually looking for a Marlin lever action 30-30, straight stock 30-30, the regular JM Marlin. And I was holding on to my money for that, and other than ammunition, stuff like that, you know. But yes, prices on some things. I did see another 39A on another guy's table there that he wanted. He had two of them actually, and one was $850 and the other was $950. So yeah, they've really, and that's for the 22s.
Now, when you say
way up.
When you say 39A, you're talking about a Marlin Model 39A. It's a lever action, blued steel, tube fed, meaning the cartridges go in a tube, and it's wood stock, magnificent looking, and it's extremely accurate. I mean, it's one of, from my research and my handling of that particular rifle, it is one of the most accurate 22s that you can buy that is not an exotic 22. Any comments on that, Kyle? Do you agree or disagree?
I totally agree. Yeah, they're extremely accurate. I've had numerous ones of them over the years, and all of them have been accurate. I wish I had every one of them now back, but, back, like you said, back in the day, you used to be able to buy them for, sometimes when I was doing gun shows a long time ago, you could buy them. I bought one time for $150. It was just one of those, they were common as dog's hair,
Yeah.
And, but now they disappeared.
You always do better than I do. I paid $225.
Yeah.
But, you always do better. David, your comments on those 22 lever action, classic styled, as good as you can get rifles? Any comments?
Now, the lever action platform, from my understanding, is getting really popular nowadays. There's a lot of shooters that are purchasing them because they want the iconic, lever action firearm. So there's getting more interest in those. And a lot of those guys, though, they're having them threaded so they could put suppressors on them, but they really enjoy them. I do have a 30-30 lever action Marlin. I've been approached to sell it. I still have the box. I will not sell it. I paid a little more than you. I talked the price down to $300 That was brand new in the box, so I didn't think I did too bad.
Oh, that's great.
I don't think I'd get that price at all today. No. Now, here's something.
Meaning you wouldn't be able to buy. Meaning you would not be able to buy one for $300 today. Is that what you're saying?
No, not even brand new in the box. I got brand new in the box. So
let me make one comment. That particular rifle, if I'm not mistaken, has a model number 336, and sometimes, class, you'll see a 336W with a W on the end of that particular Marlin 3030 hunting rifle. If it says 336W, that means it's made for and sold by Walmart W. And it's a less expensive stock. I don't think the action or the barrel is any less quality, but the wood is not quite as good. Any disagreement, David?
No. I agree with you totally. I've seen that as well, yes.
Okay. And I've paid about probably $325 was the lowest I have paid for that particular hunting rifle. And it's a great cartridge for the farm. It really is. But it can't keep up with an AR-15 or an AR-10 in terms of cycling because it's a lever action. And every time you cock that lever, every time you lose the sight picture and you have to reacquire it. And so in terms of a battle rifle, it's not a battle rifle. But in terms of a hunting rifle, it's fabulous. And it's a great step up for that young person who is, actually going hunting. Kyle, your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. All of my kids actually started with a single shot 22 because I wanted them to have to think about every single shot. And, I remember my grandpa telling a story one time that they were so poor that then they were living at the time in Oklahoma. And they were so poor that their dad would give them 3 bullets. And you come back with 3 squirrels, and a little single shot, Savage 22 he had. And, you would come back with 3 squirrels and, that fed the family that night. So one kid would go out with 3 bullets, come back with 3 squirrels, and they would do that. And the rest of the family would handle the chores for the day, but other, different things that they were doing. But they had squirrels and dumplings and all kinds of different things, but they were poor. And so I wanted my kids to learn that same thought process, every single shot counts.
Right. Every shot counts. Now, there's plenty of people who will load up a magazine, whether it be 10 rounds, 25 rounds in a 22 magazine, or even 50, and just spray. And it bothers me. It bothers me when I hear that. It bothers me when I see that, because to me, ammunition is the old word during World War II, maybe even before, was the word dear. It was dear, meaning expensive, rare, hard to come by, so don't waste it. So ammunition to me is dear, and I hate to see it wasted. How about if we move on to the topic of the first rifle or the first pistol? David, why don't we start with you? And we've got George on hold, and I'm going to see if I can make this happen. Here's what I'll have to do. David, I see you on the call screen. Kyle, I don't see on the call screen. I'm just explaining the technical part of this. So what I'll have to do, David, in order to give George airtime, I'll put you on hold. You'll be able to hear. And I'll put you on hold. I'll put George on the air. And then when George is done, I'll put George on hold, and I'll put David back on. So, Kyle, you're going to, because of your position in the queue, you will stay on. Okay? That's just the technical aspects. All right. So, why don't we go with the very first, we'll call it a firearm, rifle, pistol, shotgun, revolver. What should that be for someone just starting out?
You're referring to, I would suggest them really try to see what they're comfortable of using and whatever they purchase. I like to my first firearms, when I purchased them, I wanted to make them as beneficial to me as I could. So when I purchase a firearm, I'll get a particular caliber. Now my next one, I want to make sure my caliber is twice as much, is worth that much more to me. So I want to get my second one is going to be in that same caliber. So if one's out, I have a backup. Then I go to a different caliber if I have the opportunity. But my first actual firearm was a Colt CAR and then a Python. But I had it was an opportunity purchases. But those are my first ones. Now, if you're looking at
when
other
you say
rifles,
Colt Python, you're talking about 357?
Yes, sir. Colt. It's a 357. You could use 38 specials. Very nice pistol.
That's a heck of a first revolver to use. Now, are you saying that was what you learned on?
My dad, his buddy, they carried actually physically. My dad carried a Smith with multiple barrels and can be connected, disassembled to shoot different calibers. Now, his partner, he particularly carried a Python, and that was where my interest first came into play with the Colt.
So you didn't start with a 22?
Well, my first shooting experience with my instructors from the Marines, yes, were 22 short bolt actions. And they were some of the nicest bolt actions I have ever come across, the competition 22s. I've never seen one for sale. I wish I would. I would try to purchase it.
Would this be like a Model 44 or a Kimber?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the actual models were. All I know is there was racks of them in the armory between that and the M14s. And we had to clean and maintenance them, but they were I like a heavier, beefier stock as far as for hand placement, and the wood stocks were terrific. Like your M1 carbines, they have or your M14s. There's nice stocks on those. That's just my interest. And my interest, because of my upbringing, has always been around military or law enforcement weapons first.
Right. Very good. Kyle, when we come back, you're up, and then what I'll do is I'll put David on hold, and we'll bring George on right after Kyle. George in New Hampshire is going to weigh in with us and share his experience. So we're kind of bumping this 150 years of experience on this broadcast with your instructor's class from 150 to 200 years. That's where we are. We'll be right back. This is USA Prepares. Class, you didn't get to hear it, but the doorbells just went off here at the farm. And we had a visitor come drop off a vehicle to be serviced. And the German Shepherd puppies, they're about 8 months old now. And they saw someone that they hadn't seen before, and they went ballistic. So it works. So you might want to consider getting your own doorbells. Kyle, your first shooting experience, would you like to share with us what that was like and what the equipment was that you used?
Well, I'll tell you, my dad was a Marine Corps sniper, and extremely, probably to this day, he could outshoot most anyone I've seen in person. So he really wanted us to learn how to make every single shot count. So even though I was exposed to 22s, 38, M1 carbines, all of those, the first gun Dad got me was one of those old Crossman pump-up pellet guns that would shoot BBs. And the early ones had nice wood stocks, and you could pump them up like 25 times. And, but you had to pump them up 25 times every single time you wanted to shoot. And so I had that gun, that pellet rifle, from the time I was 6 years old till the time I was about 12, little over 12, maybe almost 13. And a lot of ducks and frogs and snakes and everything else lost their lives to me learning how to sneak up, and because you had to get away from whatever you're trying to sneak up on and pump that thing up 25 times. So you had to make sure that when you put the sneak on something, you did a good job of it, because you were only going to get one shot. And so
that's right.
That's how I ended up learning.
do you still have that pellet gun?
No, we lost it in a fire, Vince. It burnt up.
Okay. Well, I still have mine. And mine was in .22 caliber. And it's from the 60s. And you're absolutely right. You pump it up and it wouldn't hold that compressed air forever. So it would slowly leak out. At least mine did. And I'd oil it and try to make it better, but I still have it. It was given to me by a cousin. He thought that it was time for me to have one, and it was great, and did a lot of target practice with it. It's quiet, and they came in two calibers. One was 170.177, which is a BB, and .22, which is the .22 caliber. And mine didn't shoot BBs because it was the .22 caliber. But still have it, still have some pellets, and it's a great way to learn. And you're absolutely right, because you've got to pump it, etc. And every shot has to count. And so when you pump it up 20 times, you want to make sure that shot counts. You just don't spray pellets. Very, very good point. And when did you move on to a powder-driven cartridge?
When I was about 13 years old, my family moved from where we had lived inside of the little town, and Dad moved out into the country. And so one of the farmers that was next door there loved for anybody to shoot gophers. And so I ended up getting a little Savage bolt action with a clip 22 that Dad I bought actually with some of my paper route money, part of it, and Dad paid for part of it. And so I would go over to his. He had 160 acres, and so I would travel. To me, that was a huge area. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I would travel all over that, going all over looking for squirrels and rabbits, but he really wanted me to kill off gophers, and so they were my main predator.
Mm-hmm. And so that was a 22 long rifle bolt action, correct?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. David, I'm going to put you on hold for a second, and we're going to bring George on.
Yes,
Stay
sir.
with us, David, please. And if I drop any of you, please call right back, okay? All right. George in New Hampshire, welcome.
Hi,
it's so good to see you.
Kyle. Hello. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's great to see that you're on with us. Thank you for calling in.
Same here. Yeah, I just wanted to say three things if I could quick. One thing is, we're approaching the last shopping day before Christmas, so to speak, meaning the election. And the closer we get to that election, the more rabbits that are going to be pulled out of the hats, and they're going to be running around creating all kinds of problems in the society. And by the time the average person realizes just how serious the situation is, I think it's going to go from bad to worse as far as supply and the rest of it. The good thing right now is it's hunting season. I would suggest, if you want a home defense, I'd get a pump shotgun. You could get them in the big box stores. You could get 100 rounds of some heavy field loads, shotgun shells for under $25, and you probably can find a pump. I'd recommend a 20 gauge. I'd get a Remington. I'd stay the hell away, pardon my French. I'll stay the hell away from the Chinese-made rifles.
All right, hold that thought. We'll be. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. There are 4 of us here today. We've got Kyle, David, George, and I'm here, and we're talking about guns. And George in New Hampshire moved us over to shotguns, into the shotgun aisle. And you recommended, I believe you said, a 20 gauge. Is that correct, George?
A 20 gauge or a 12 gauge, but if you have teenagers or women in the household, they'll find it much more comfortable, and a senior citizen might find it much more comfortable to have than to carry. The reason I switched it over is what I'm saying. I think we're at the point, Vincent, that it's a little late to be kind of figuring out the first gun, so to speak. It's getting to the point where you want to have a gun that's sufficient to the task to at least make the looters think twice, or the gang members, if things break down, that they're going to look around for easier targets. And it's something that, like I said, it comes down to availability.
So what I have found in my research in the last few minutes is that you can buy a 12-gauge pump shotgun, name brand, for, let's say, $400 or even less. And there's some rebates on them. And you're absolutely right. The fear of hearing that shotgun rack, if you're at the wrong end of the shotgun, is terrifying. And so what would you recommend, George? I know that you've been to many, many gun shows and you've been shooting for a long time. Do you have a specific couple of brands that you'd say, here's what you should get?
Well,
which model of shotgun?
Well, I would recommend either a Mossberg or a Remington 870 or a Mossberg 500. And they also have some other versions that are a little beefier. But I would say the top basic fundamental Chevy and Fords of the gun world are the Remington and the Mossberg. Remington is a little heavier, forged steel. The Mossberg 500 is made with an aluminum receiver, but the main components that you need, it's a simpler, cheaper gun. I saw in a big box store, let's call it Walmart, I saw a 20-gauge pump 870 shotgun for $328 brand new. And always remember, I know you know it, Vincent and Kyle and David, that you have to feed it. You have to buy sufficient quantities of ammo. And right now, because it's hunting season is upon us, and also some are coming up, for $25 or less, I would say maybe $22, you can get basically 100 shotgun shells. And for basically under $400, you could be well outfitted, get some cleaning supplies, get some rags from around the household because you're going to be wiping it down. You want to keep it in good condition, you want to keep it oiled, and you want to be able to clean it.
Yeah, and so what gauge, you said 12, let's go for a 12 gauge, and because that seems to be the most common. What shot size are you recommending in that 100-round purchase?
Well, okay, I would recommend a good balance is number 4, but it's not always available. They have double-aught buck. The nice thing with shotguns is I would invest in a number of boxes that will probably cost you like probably $10 for maybe 20 shots or maybe less, maybe 15 of double-aught buck, 00 and buck, like a dollar bill buck. And I would also buy a couple of boxes of slugs, SLUGS, which are solid bullet, 12-gauge size bullets that a friend of mine told me one time, if you shot enough of them into a telephone pole, it wouldn't take that many. You could cut the telephone pole in half. So there's multiple variations.
I was talking with our son about the slugs, the aluminum 1-ounce slugs, and his comment was, you hit somebody in the arm, it's going to take the arm off. Hit him in the leg, it's going to take the leg off.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, too,
okay, so the answer is the larger the number, the smaller the pellet size. So like a 7.5 would be a small pellet size, lots of pellets in the shotgun shell. 00 buck would be a larger pellet size, but fewer of them. And then a slug, there's only one slug, one projectile. Okay, so would you recommend that if you go to the Chinese factory outlet, pick up a box of 100 12-gauge shells and take some cardboard and check the pattern and see at specific distances how far those pellets spread out? Would you recommend that?
Yes, and the thing is, the further away from the end of the shotgun pellets the projectiles get, the more they're going to fan out. But they have heavy field loads that they sell, the 100 for under $25. It looks like almost like two cigarette cartons on top of each other's size, to give you an idea. And inside you'll have probably, I'd say 4 boxes. And in those boxes, you'll find that, in other words, with the projectiles, if it's within, I'd say 50 feet, the heavy field loads will do fine, or within the confines of like a hallway or the confines of a porch or the indoors of a house. But another thing I'd recommend, and I don't mean to go on and on, I'll just say that when you buy the gun, 2 3/4 inch is sufficient. But nowadays, most of the pump shotguns you're going to find, they're going to be able to handle 3-inch and 2 3/4 inch shells, which is versatile because you can shoot the shorter shell 2 3/4 in it, but you also have the option of the more powerful, some people call them 3-inch magnum shells, that also loads more projectiles, but at the same time gives more of a let's just say more of an impact when it hits.
Okay, so class, it will say on the barrel of the shotgun what length shotgun shells you can put in. It will say 2 3/4, or it'll say 2 3/4 and 3-inch. It'll tell you. So you want to make sure you don't put the larger cartridge or the larger shotgun shell in a shotgun that you can't handle it. So it'll say right on the shotgun barrel. So find that. And George recommended the Mossberg 500, Mossberg manufacturer, model 500, Remington manufacturer, 870. So for less than $400, you can get one. And it's a great self-defense shotgun. The one that I have is I have a Marine. It's a Winchester Marine model, and it's actually plated so that it can go aboard a ocean-going ship and not rust. And I've had it for, 40 years. Bought it used. I think it was maybe $150 used back, years and years ago. Okay, George, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, and we're going to go to David. Okay, please stand by. David, shotguns, 12 gauge? What are your thoughts?
This is great. This shows how good your technology capability is. Anyways, yes, I agree with somewhat George. I was going to get on that. I did my weapon I have made for the lady of the house. I prefer Remingtons. I walked across a Remington 1100 Special Edition Ultralight, brand new. I mean, they never shot this thing. $300 out the door. I fixed it up and put a mag tubes on it made it so it's compact. It already had an 18.5-inch barrel. That semi-automatic will drastically, it'll improve your ability to follow up shots. It'll take the recoil, and for a small-statured woman or a senior, that would be great for a 20 gauge. But I have 12 gauges, and I have double-aught buck tactical rounds. The problem with getting double-aught buck and slugs, they're going to be extremely more expensive. So you got to weigh the fact of how much rounds of ammo do you want for that particular firearm versus the cost. You got to factor that in as well, because around here it's just 5 rounds per slugs and double-aught buck rounds. So they're smaller. Now I happened to walk into a place and the guy knew me. Somebody ordered the high-velocity double-aught buck rounds, and they were going to destroy them. And he says, "I knew you'd be coming in here. Do you want them? How much?" $1.60 a box. I'll take them all.
Sure.
I didn't argue with them. I took the whole case. So there's buys out there. But yes, a shotgun is excellent. And I agree with you. I was going to talk to you about the maintenance you have to factor the maintenance into even your climate. If you're in Florida, you're going to have a rust problem. Mm-hmm. So I agree with all that. Now, I don't have slugs. I don't have slugs because of a reason. I was hung around with law enforcement and conservation people, and they always told me, even if we find a slug in your tackle box, we can take you in and we can confiscate everything you have just for having a slug in a tackle box. So I avoided slugs for those reasons. I did not want some guy coming and taking all my equipment for nothing and losing my permit to have a firearm. So
And isn't that area dependent or location dependent? Aren't slugs allowed some places, not others? Because I don't. Yes.
Yes, that would be a big factor. You got to also factor in anything with any firearm. You have to factor there's laws for federal, state, local, city. So you got the whole nonsense to go down, and one will contradict the other. And then magnify that by every state in the United States. It's ridiculous in a way.
Okay. Let me let's go to Kyle. Kyle, your thoughts on shotgun 12 gauge?
I will tell you what has happened, what I have seen happen. I tend to shy away from pump shotguns for a household unless you have everyone in the household that has fired that thing so that it is practically second nature. And I don't care if it's target loads or whatever, because I have seen, even in competition with shotguns, people don't rack it right, don't rack it fully, or just sit there and try to keep pulling the trigger when they get under even the kind of a stress of a competition, much less people trying to break your door in. You might shoot once, and I'm afraid the stress of that will cause a lot of people to forget to rack the forearm correctly and completely. I tend to lean toward, if you're going to just buy something for the household, a semi-automatic shotgun, because anxiety and stress and all of those things makes training, even a little bit of training, usually will go right out the door. Unless somebody's seen a lot of training where that's the only thing you're used to, a lot of people will not do it right.
There's an old saying, fear the man who owns just one gun, because he knows how to use it. We'll be right back. So there's four of us today. David, Kyle, George, and me. We're talking about guns. And Kyle, you talked about semi-automatic shotgun. That means that each time you pull the trigger after the first time, it goes off until you are out of shotgun shells. So you don't have to rack a pump, or you don't have to operate a bolt, or you don't have to open it up for a double barrel and remove the shells and reload. So what is the extra cost for the semi-automatic shotgun? Which one do you recommend? Which brand do you like? Brand, model, and barrel length, please.
Well, if I was going to buy something, it's okay. So if we're thinking about trying to just defend the inside of your house, and you're not going to use this for a survival weapon outside of the house, the shorter the barrel, the quicker that you can get, the shorter barrel you can get, the quicker you can actuate it, and move it around and be able to shoot consistently. You want a full length tube. But the part to me that makes a shotgun like that difficult for anything outside the house is that, if you're going to try to put food on the table, then you need a longer barreled one with a full choke normally, or a rifled barrel so that you can shoot smoothbore slugs, or you need to buy rifled slugs if you're shooting a smoothbore shotgun to try to get deer or food of any other kind. Now, you can go a lot of different directions. I prefer I can't remember the model number now, Vince, the 1100 Remington. Remington makes a great shotgun. But again, you're dealing almost in two different scenarios. Do you want something that's just for defense of your house? Well, let's think about this just a minute. If they've gotten to your house, you're in a world of hurt already. I mean, boy, you don't want to have to fight them at your door, because you've got windows, you've got a back door. You're in deep trouble if you've let them get to your house, in my opinion. So, you know, I know it's kind of an open-ended answer, but it's hard to
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. You're saying 18 and a half inches because it has a shorter barrel, so it's more maneuverable, and you want a full tube. And by that you mean you don't want a shorter than full tube because in the tube are your unused shells. So you want to have the maximum capacity, and you want to have a short barrel, 18 and a half inches or so, for inside home defense. But outside the home, you want a longer barrel because a shorter barrel will allow the pellets to spread farther from the center, where a longer barrel will tend to keep the pellets more focused over a longer distance. And so that brings the question to, what about the chokes? Because you can adjust the pattern at which a shotgun sprays those pellets outward by chokes. And they have lots of terms for these chokes. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, if I was going to if you had an adjustable choke gun, so let's put ourselves in the position of a house intruder. Do you want to spread the pattern out and diffuse the amount of pellets that you are going to potentially hit him with? Do you want to diffuse that out a long ways and potentially hit someone else coming out of a room down the hall? Or do you want a very focused attempt, a very focused pattern to be able to put whoever it is, let them get the full blast of whatever it is you're doing? So in my opinion, a full choke for the type of situations we're coming into now. If there was a collapse, I want a tight choke all the time. I want it outside the house. I want it inside the house. I want nothing but a full choke. The modified would be your neck, the one, and then you're open. And
what you're
I don't
saying,
want open.
What you're saying is you want the minimum spray. You want to keep all those pellets relatively close together. That's correct, isn't it?
That's what I feel like. Yep.
All right, we'll be right back. David, you're up next, then George. I used to call them scatter guns, and that's because the pellets would scatter and spray out, and they'd fan out. And so, David, your comments on patterning a shotgun, if you will. I've done it, and I got to tell you that what I found out firsthand at 21 feet, if there are three guys standing side by side, and you think you're going to hit all three at 21 feet with a 18 and a half inch shotgun, you're not going to do it. You're only going to get one of them. Any comments?
Nope. Yep, no. It's not going to spread out that. Now, your deer slugs, your deer barrels, your rifle barrels for a shotgun will spread a lot more. And that's due to the rifling inside, spinning them pellets around. Now, one other thing I was going to get to that I thought you were going to go to, but the other thing, if you're going to use a shotgun for both protection, self-defense, and for out there using it for hunting, you go to put one of these mag extension tubes, like for the Remington 1100s, like I have here, or even 870s. You can extend that capability of that shotgun by 7-8 rounds in the mag tube, but there is a stop in there, to plug. There's usually a wood or plastic plug in there to take out when you go to do that. It's a dowel.
A dowel rod.
Right. That's what
it's a dowel rod. It's like the diameter of a pencil, right, about as long as a pencil.
You don't throw that away. It's a stick. Yeah, you keep it, because if you do take it out hunting, that's because you're only allowed 3 rounds. 3 to 5 for shotguns? It is 3. So if you're out caught and you think, I don't have to put the plug or take the mag tube off, you're in for a world of hurt when they stop you, because they will check to make sure. So you need to make sure you keep those.
What David is saying, class, is that there are some restrictions as to how many rounds you can have in your shotgun. So let's say the shotgun allows you to have 7 rounds or 5 rounds in the tube. And the law says that you can only go hunting with 3. What the manufacturer will do is put a restrictor in there or a dowel rod to occupy the space where the shotgun shells would be if you had more than 3. So it limits you. And you can easily take that dowel rod out for self-protection, and you probably should. But the point is, if you go hunting with it, you need to put it back in many locations, not all locations. Very, very good point. And I wholeheartedly recommend that you test that shotgun out. Don't think that now that you bought it, everything's good. You need to use it, get accustomed to it, and everyone in the family who would be using it should do the same thing. You're going to have some recoil with that thing, and it might be a little surprising to you. So you have to hold on to it tightly. But you need to pattern it. And what I mean by that is you get a big sheet of cardboard. Take a box, open it up, and put it in a safe direction. And at whatever distance you think you need to protect yourself, fire at the center of that cardboard, and you will be surprised at how close those pellets are to each other. So let's say use a number 7.5 load that you might use for hunting birds. You'll be very surprised that they would all fit on a dinner plate, actually a dessert plate. You'd be surprised to see that. Because if you think you're going to hit 3 people with it, it's not going to happen. You need 3 rounds to hit 3 people. If they're standing side by side by side. No kidding. Any quick comments before we go to George?
Yeah, I was going to say something really quick. The time when we did the Gacy thing, we actually my friend had one of those Crossmans with us at that time, and he actually thought it was a 22. But something else real quick. When my Marine Corps instructors taught us in rifle competition, they even taught us that, hey, we had magazine-fed 22s. We were not allowed to use the magazines. He said, you're going to learn like every Marine Corps is a marksman. You will learn 1 shot, 1 kill, period. So our spotter was to hand us the ammo, and we made sure where our rounds went. Even back then, that's just the way it was. And then you should do that with animals, too, if you're hunting, in my opinion.
Right. You don't want to wound the animal and have the animal suffer. If you're going to kill an animal, you want to do it quickly and humanely. And by the way, one of my instructors was a Marine Corps sniper from Vietnam. And when we were learning how to shoot decades ago, he would take what he called his cover, which was his ball cap, and he would swat you while you were composing your shot. He would swat you and yell at you and distract you and make noises and bang and all kinds of things to let you know that it's not always going to be all that comfortable where you're shooting on a bench and everybody's quiet. It's going to be chaotic. And that's how we were taught. Let's go. Let me see. I'm going to put you on hold, David. See if I can do it again. Don't go away, please. George, any comments on what we've just said?
Yes. I will say that I agree with Kyle and David that it's nice to have a semi-automatic shotgun where basically you point and shoot. But if you have a malfunction of any kind, you're going to find it more difficult, especially if a round gets, maybe it's swelled up for some reason or it's defective. With the pump shotgun and the ones I recommended, they both have double extractors that are like little hooks on the end of the bolt that's up against the shell that you can manually pull back and just eject the shell and then load another one and you're back into action, hopefully. The other thing I'll tell you is that you can swap barrels so that this way the barrels you can switch from if you're going hunting and you want to bag some ducks that are flying by, you get the long barrel. But with these guns for maybe like within $100 or so, $125, you can get another barrel that will be either a riot barrel of 18-inch. You don't want to go below 18 inches because it's illegal, and you need basically the equivalent of a machine gun license to have something less than 18 inches, and it could get you into a world of hurt with the authorities. That said, another thing with shotguns, too, that I think you gentlemen are probably familiar with is you can get adapters so you could fire like a .357 Magnum through a 12-gauge shotgun. or you could fire a multitude of different cartridges and even some smaller shotgun shells, because they have these shells that fit into the barrel in the chamber end of it back towards the bolt, and you can, or with a single shot, you can basically adapt that shotgun to shoot rifle calibers and pistol calibers.
And I still have the scars to prove it, where Mike Ma shot me because he modified his 12-gauge shotgun to do exactly that. It looks like a shotgun shell, class. It's made out of aluminum. Looks like a shotgun shell, and you can put a 357 cartridge in this adapter and use your shotgun as a single shot. And he put a wax bullet on a 357 or 38. He shot me in the hand with it, and I'm looking at the scar. I still have it from, 7 years ago. So yes, you absolutely can do that. And you're all making good points. David, George, Kyle, you're all making excellent points. I have a pump shotgun. We all know how to use it. And I was at a gun show several years ago, and I saw something that really intrigued me. And this was a hunting shotgun, and it was vintage, probably from the 50s or the 1960s, maybe a little bit later, maybe even into the 70s. I'm not sure. But it had an adjustable choke, and all you did was turn this knob on the end of the barrel, and it would change the pattern. Do you have any comments about that, George? Now that'd be a much longer barrel.
Yes, now that's called a cuts compensator. It was a remedy that was around for many decades. I noticed a lot of people felt that it detracted from the gun, but from my point of view, it was great, as you knew, is because you just turned it. It was very well made. It had like a white bead sight on top of the thing, and it looked like a cone that fit on the end of it. And what you could do is you could just turn it, and instead of have like 2, 3, 4 barrels that would be either full, cylinder, modified, so that you could throw different patents, this thing could take the single barrel you had and adapt it so it could shoot all different kinds of patents. And more often than not, they'd sell the gun for less, and that's something that always confused me, because I said, first of all, the compensator cost money, then you had to have it fitted on the gun by a gunsmith, that cost money, and I always felt like I was getting a bargain if I had that. It's a little louder when it fires, right, Vincent?
Absolutely.
I found it just a little bit louder than normal.
Absolutely.
Right, but
so, all right.
I'm sorry, if I could just say one other thing.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
A lot of these new guns now, like the Remingtons or the Mossbergs and others, they'll come with these chokes, tubes, that'll be like little cylinders that with a tool you can twist them out of the end of the shotgun. And it acts like the cuts compensator. I like the convenience of the cuts compensator, and the quality was there, the way it was made. But this was something as an inexpensive way that they could just take out one cylindrical little cone, and they could put another one in, and they could change the barrel to throw different kinds of patents, whether wide or tight.
George, when I was at this gun show years ago, maybe 3 years ago, there was a guy, I saw this shotgun with the cuts compensator, and it was from the factory. And I had never used one like that, and I thought, gosh, this is intriguing. And I said, so how much for this? He said, well, I'll tell you what, if you buy that one with the adjustable choke, the cuts compensator, and you take this other one, which was really nice as well, woodstock, blued, great condition, obviously owned by a senior citizen who took care of it and prized it and cherished it. I think the price was $325 for both.
Wow.
I said, okay, sounds good to me. And so I bought them. So what I found is that there are shotguns, and they're both pump, that people don't want. Now what's the problem with these? Okay, do you know? Because I don't know. Why were they so cheap? They weren't stolen.
Well, and I know it's the same reason why somebody wants to trade in their car every 3 years.
Uh-huh.
In other words, they look at it and they said, well, that's for an old fogey type of thing. And they were looking at a gun that was better made, better quality, smoother action, made by people who took pride and basically was at the peak of our industrial output in terms of quality and good old American know-how and manufacture that was world-renowned. And you can see what it's been replaced with. But a lot of people are just fatheads, I've noticed. In other words, they can't look at something for its own intrinsic value. They have to follow the crowd because whatever the hottest thing is, and they'll chase after it. And I'll leave it with this because I know David and Kyle want to weigh in. I'll just say, Vincent, that you know what somebody once said about a $5 bottle of perfume? They said, now this is a $5 bottle of perfume. We can't sell it. He says, but if we would put a certain Parisian name in front of it and we would sell the sizzle, so to speak, he goes, we can't hold on to the same bottle for $25.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, Kyle and David, and then back to George if we have time. And the question that I'd like to ask is, okay, first choice, what are we going to buy for home protection? What would it be? What would you buy, all things being considered? What would be number one and what would be number two? So we're down to the last segment here. And so Kyle first, David, then George. I hope we have time. Self-defense, first choice and second choice, all things being considered. Make, model, caliber, please. All things being considered. Rifle, pistol, shotgun.
Okay. If it's going to be rifle, pistol, and shotgun, I would get the 18.5-inch barrel shotgun, semi-automatic, full tube, full choke, for the shotgun. For pistol, I would get a 9mm pistol with at least a 12 to 15 round capability of a magazine, and of course have many extra magazines, and get a 9mm bullet as small as you can, around 90 grains, going as fast as you possibly can. And for the number one gun, if you can find it and make it work, I would get an AR-15 pistol with an arm brace to the back of it, and about an 8 to 10 inch barrel in 300 blackout, with about using the 115 to 120 grain bullets, going as fast as possible.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me do this. David.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Now, for rifle, anything considered. Okay. Yes. Anything considered, where finances and availability was not a consideration. I like the foul. I would go with the 7.62 NATO round for a rifle. As far as shotgun ammo style, I would go with a class of what they call now is called a firearm. Because then you can go under 12 inches for the barrel. Perfectly legal by the ATF. That's what I am doing here right now. I'm trying to get a hold of a couple AR lowers so I can make 2 410 classified shotguns, which allows me to have a magazine of 15 rounds, 5 rounds per buckshot load. That's a heck of a, and controllability is just nothing with a 410. Pistol, I see there's going to be a lot of 9mm. There's a lot of those, but if I'm factoring the capabilities of everyone else in my household, I personally like this Cal-Tech PMR-30, which holds 30 rounds of 22 Magnums. I have a lot of extra mags. I know that round hollow point will do, and I know the woman in the house will be able to use it with no problem either. There's a thing, too much firearm for the individual. And I've seen people give their wives a 50 cal pistol, which one shot, you got to go back and look and see if they're okay. There's just too much there. But that's just the way I look at it. Yes, there's a lot of 9s, there's a lot of 380s, but I'm also factoring in who else is in my home that may need to operate and function, use those weapons. So that's why I choose those.
President Ronald Reagan was shot with a .22. There was an assassination attempt on his life with a .22. So please don't discount the .22 as not being lethal. We literally, when we have to put a cow down here at the farm, we can put down a cow with a .22 long rifle. 40 grain or 36 grain cartridge. Seriously. So, I mean, they have to be hit right, but they drop instantly. So
now there's a 60 grain cartridge 22 LR. Now I prefer the 22 Magnums, but there's a 60 grain, but they were used for more that distance. You want to take that target out right away. So that's what that was designed for.
Okay. And, any other comments about, first and second choice?
No, just that's the way I look at them. Yes, I would like to have other calibers, but I'm looking within the household to defense, not outside the household. I would have a totally different situation.
Yes, and when you said FAL, that's F-A-L, you're talking about FN-FAL. That's a battle rifle class. That is, that's a European battle rifle, a weapon of war, almost, we'll call it almost indestructible. Yes? 308.
Oh, yeah. Now, yes. Now, if you put the muzzle brake on those, you're not going to make friends at the gun range, but because you're projecting all the gases to the sides and to the portion of the top to help stabilize that barrel. But now everybody next to you is hearing that noise and the percussion. They're getting the big full face of it next to you. That they may be a little bit upset with them, but it allows you to control that weapon a lot easier.
Okay, David, let me put you on hold for just a second,
Thank
please. George, I assume this is you. Is that right?
Yeah, Ben.
I'm sorry, that was my fault. That was my fault.
No, I'm not blaming you.
Very quickly, what first and second choice?
I'd go for an 870 shotgun, Remington or Mossberg. You can get all kinds of accessories, American-made, parts availability. Yeah, for battle rifle, HK91 clone, FAL, or the M1A, which is the civilian M14.
There you go, class. There's your homework to research all of those. And back to the shotgun very quickly. You can buy shotguns with multiple barrels. You can buy the set, and you can have multiple barrels, a long barrel and a short barrel. You can do everything you want in 12 gauge, and you could probably get it for around $450 if my memory serves me correctly. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge and being with us for 2 hours.